Hey, everybody. Welcome to Under God Project Podcast. I'm Andy.
Oh, and I'm Jen. Hello.
Sorry, I don't always gear up that well. I'm sorry. We together, we are accelerating America to be one nation under God again. Under God Project Podcast. The podcast is an initiative for Under God Project. So at Under God Project, we are inviting God into our national identity. So it's a series of activities and events that families, pastors, or families, congregational leaders, and civil servants can do to, again, invite God into our national identity. This series that we've been doing this is week 5 on the Glenn
Beck First 40 Day
Devotional. Right. So do you want to explain how we do that?
Sure. So we are in no way affiliated with Glenn Beck, by the way. We are doing this because we are bringing the light, love, and liberty that we have in America through what he's doing. And, well, not through, but including what he's doing.
Including, yeah, there you go. We're very inclusive. Yeah.
Yes. Just gonna ignore that.
Right.
We give the A for approval on his devotional. He did a really great job, and we're excited to be sharing with you our thoughts on it. And as we go through it. So today we are working on week 5, like he said. We were doing 21 through 25. So
it's about the halfway point, right?
actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a little past halfway.
It is, right, because it's 40 days, right?
Right. Anyway, so let's start today. Today is day 20. Well, we're starting with 21, and it is Jesus at the foundation.
Yeah, so I almost wanted to say brothers and sisters because these are the two that
Totally can.
Absolutely they kind of just make me feel like I'm in church because 21 and 22 okay, so let me back up for a quick second. So the way that Jen and I like to do these is one, we want to assume that you're already doing them at home, and so instead of walking you through all the bits and pieces and all that other stuff, get your get the PDF, get the thing out, and follow along. If you don't know where to find them, we have them on our app. So download the Under God Project app. That's on the iOS store. It's on the Play Store. So follow along in there. Get yourself a thing. We've got a group associated to it. You'll find it when you get in. And there's a badge at the end of all this that gives you the Glenn Beck First 40 devotional badge, which is just kind of fun.
Saying that you have completed all the 40 days.
Yes, it goes on your profile that just says, "Hey, you completed it when everybody else completed
Badge
it as
of
well."
honor for you, right?
Right. It gives the other people that are in the community a little bit of an idea of where you're coming from. Of kind of, you're like, oh yeah, you did the thing too. That was fun. So these two, in my mind, are really super special because they're directly about Jesus Christ. And
That's true. You wanted to combine 21 and 22.
yes, so I'm sorry. Thank you. 21 and 22, I just kind of want to combine and say that Christ is the center of your homes, your lives, your house. He's the center of our compact. He's the center of the whole Under God project. Christ is the center of our nation. Our nation was built on those that believed in Christ. And Jesus Christ is our Savior. He is our Redeemer. He has risen. I love our Savior Jesus Christ. And I'm so glad that those that have come before us have laid a foundation of laid a biblical foundation and have built the kingdom in our nation and built the nation around the kingdom. So take a look at 21 and 22. I couldn't stop. I did 21 and 22 together. I kind of couldn't stop. I was like, no, I'm just keeping going because it just works too well together.
It didn't feel like they were separate days. It definitely felt like they needed to combine.
Yes, it did. I really couldn't. The cliffhanger between the two was just too strong. I was like,
I have
no,
no idea
I'm
how
doing.
this ends.
No, I need to go. So, anyways, yeah, no, I really, really liked them. So take a look at those two and bring Christ into your home in that way. So
yeah, if he's not already, definitely try to make him a center of your home because then your home will be a bit happier. amongst other things, amongst many other blessings that come through Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So day 23, then we're going to just jump straight over to the good news. And the good news is the kingdom is here, if you didn't already know that. And in Jesus's time, this was his declaration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was saying that, you know what? You need to stop looking for the kingdom because it is here. You've arrived.
Right.
Right.
And you are part of the kingdom.
Exactly.
You have an active role in the kingdom, and the kingdom doesn't exist without righteous activity.
Yep.
Right. And so we are held accountable to the activity that we have. The country, our country, is based on those that recognize that, those that recognize that they couldn't not just worship. They were held by the ability to not just worship, even though that was huge, but because they didn't have the right to conscience and the religious liberty that we have here, because they didn't have that where they were, they couldn't build a kingdom. They couldn't build the kingdom the way that they knew that God wanted them to build. And so that's why they came. And then a series of others came, and and other congregations started to form, and then states started to form around the religious beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And so from Massachusetts to Delaware to the Delaware, the Delaware Constitution? Connecticut Constitution. I'm sorry. Thank you. No, it was the wrong one. The Connecticut Constitution. From the Connecticut the Connecticut Constitution is a border between two religious beliefs, and so the state lines all in the Northeast. This is why they all are tiny states out there, is because these different colonies had religious beliefs that said, hey, you should have the right to worship the way that you want to worship. I should have a right to worship the way that I want to worship too, even though there's a distinction there. I'm not going to force you to believe me, even though I might proselyte, but I'm not going to force you to believe that. So there ought to be something between us, right? And so that's where I can't believe I said Delaware, the Connecticut Constitution came from, where and that's where all of those states come from. Yeah. Is the ability, the separation of the respect that they had for the right to conscience, what we call religious liberty, and the right to practice that, and to have different types of lifestyle, different types of churches and congregations inside of the kingdom. All of that is the kingdom. And so it is legit, like our country is legitimately a kingdom nation, mm-hmm. right?
Well, and to put a little plug in there, in our sister podcast, S'mores and Stripes, we'll actually be going through, we have a founding churches tour that we're going to go on.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout for that.
Ooh, can I give a little sneak peek? Please.
Fine.
So, okay. So while we were in Sleepy Hollow, you'll hear us say this a lot, but while we were in Sleepy Hollow, it was so much fun. We got to visit the Old Dutch Church. Yep. Of course, we went to the Old North Church in Boston while we were there as well, which is really cool. But that's kind of part of the whole America's founding congregations thread that goes through all of those. And our nation was founded on congregations. So families, God makes families, families make nations, right? Families coming together under this same identity of faith make the next level, counties, mm-hmm. and our state lines. And that's legit when you look at our the way that those borders were created, from Massachusetts to Delaware to Connecticut to all the states that were in those spaces. They were all based on their
own religious beliefs.
Exactly, their own congregational religious ties that said, okay, well, hey, Puritans over here, mm-hmm. and Pilgrims are over there, and that's okay, right? So even though inside of those as well, they had different ways of even doing economics, different ways of trade, different ways of sharing and value of work, etc. That all was different within the states as well. So it was all different, but it was all biblically based, and so it was really great. So Ever since then, we have been a kingdom building nation. So from then on, we've had new churches, new congregations, churches and congregations expanding all throughout, except, and this is one of the things that really, really pulled us into Under God Project and creating this movement and creating this as an organization. In 2019, America became a kingdom shrinking nation for the first time in American history.
That's unheard of, by the way.
No, seriously. Okay, so to give it just a little bit more oomph in case that wasn't enough, the rest of the world, the rest of the free and not so free world, have been relying on the fact that America has been a kingdom building nation. Maybe even not even realizing it, but we have had more churches opening than closing in our nation since its founding. And so ever since, we've always had more churches opening net since we've been monitoring that number. But for the first time in American history, before COVID, and it was the year before COVID,
which makes it even more interesting.
Right. We had more churches close than open, and that number didn't just dip. That number took a flip. So we had, now keep in mind, nationwide, there's always churches closing, in communities where a lot of people leave or whatever, and so churches will close. But as populations grow, the need for churches are always there. So there's always more churches nationwide. Mm-hmm. So this number that we're talking about, there's always 4,500 churches opening and 3,500 churches closing up until 2019. So there's always been a net of at least 1,500 churches opening. Now, most people look at activity. Most people will say, well, our activity in churches have been down for a long time. And that's activity, but not net opening. Right? And so this number is significant because this number tells us that this is when this number flips, and that's exactly what happened. 2019, 4,500 churches closed and only 3,500 churches opened. So that meant that there was a net loss. And then the very next year was COVID, and it took a nosedive. How
many were completely closed after that point?
Correct. Some churches closed that were never able to open again, and that's why we began our tour of America's founding churches, because some of the churches that even remained open even amid all that are still thriving. Mm-hmm. They're still going. They still have their roots. They still that is what our nation is built on. We enter into a world where generations have come before us and have established the kingdom in this nation and have built our nation out of the kingdom and have created the ability for us to have more religious liberty than we've ever had before. And that inheritance is not one of riches and of land and of all that other stuff, but it's an inheritance of responsibility, mm-hmm. an inheritance of making sure that our next generation has more religious liberty than we have now, of making sure that the kingdom is building across our nation, because we've got a lot of catching up to do. Because this nosedive did not happen because of COVID; it happened before COVID, and then the continual that continual grade happened because the apathy to assemble set in the previous year, and when that happened, it's no wonder that the kingdom became non-essential throughout. And so we have a different compact for that. We do have a county compact that is about saying that the kingdom does not close and that faith in God is always essential. And so there's a different way we go about doing that, but fundamentally, now is the time for this generation of American families, fathers and mothers, to step up, because the pastors are waiting for you to tell them to your pastors are waiting for you to tell them that that's what you want. They're waiting for you to unite. because the pastors follow their flocks. Well, not all pastors, but the pastors prioritize their flocks.
Sorry. I'm ruining things now.
It's okay. It's okay. Sorry. No, my bad. So that was 23.
Yeah. Let's move on to 24.
24.
Okay, so 24 is preparing the way.
Yeah, I was going to lead you on this one,
That's
sweetheart.
okay.
Do you want to do it?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I know you wanted to talk
Right.
about
So
a
24
previous podcast
is
with Don Fotheringham, if anyone remembers that one. I'm sure they do. It was
24
very
is
impressive one.
24 is a good one. This one is prepare the way. What were your thoughts about it?
Oh, it was mostly your talking.
Okay. All right. Well, I
Not
can
that,
do it. It's
not
fine.
that we're not used to that.
That's okay. So, so like I had said in the previous one, this one is preparing the way, and being in Elisha, is more of a mindset than it has to be a call necessarily. Somebody who prepares the way, it doesn't necessarily have to inject and build in the space. So like I had said before, our families have brought us, the righteous families of previous generations have brought us to this point, given us the blessings. They've given us the ability for us to, because of their faith in Christ, that have given them the strength to take down their Goliaths of their day. They have opened up the doors for us to enter in and now do what we need to do for our generation, but simultaneously open up, maintain the path, and prepare the path for future generations. And so that's a constant. It's a concept that's a constant. So our family brought us to this point, and we prepare the next generation, and we prepare the next generation by securing the liberties of the next generation. Now, that doesn't mean we know what God's going to do in that space, but we open up the door so that God can do whatever he wants to do in that space with the generation that's there.
Right.
And right now we definitely see that there are so many closing doors. And, it's interesting, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but, a lot of my biblically centered friends, a lot of my Christian friends, a lot of people that I know from church, the first thing they say is, well, sign of the times, doors are closing, religious liberty's closing, and all these other things are closing. Well, Christ is coming. And you're kind of like, well, yeah, but you can stop it. Like you have the ability to keep the doors open. It's your job to sling you're the David, right? It's your job to sling the stone, to stand in front of Goliath and run toward him, and to
not just sit there being intimidated by him. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Like to not just be one of the other, one of the other guys that are like, yeah, sign of the times, and Christ is coming. So we better just sit back and let him come. And you're like, no, no, your job is to be David.
About it.
Right. Your job is to be David and run to meet the Philistine and say, not this generation. Christ will come when Christ comes. Like we should live our lives. Right. We should live our lives as though he's coming tomorrow. Right. Yep. And just make it real simple on everybody. Live your life as though he's coming tomorrow, because he's going to judge you on the actions you take today.
Right.
Right. So if you live your life like he's coming tomorrow, then you will be preparing for him to come today. Whereas if you're not, and you're just going, well, he's going to come soon, but you just sit back and wait for him to wait for all that stuff to happen.
Relax.
It's just
grab some popcorn.
Like, yeah, just watch him come. Like he's going
not actively preparing yourself for he's coming.
Yeah, he's going to ask you, what did you do with the nation that I gave you?
Right.
How
did you prepare the way?
Right. He's going to ask you, what did you do here?
Right.
There were all these previous generations that I blessed these people with, and I gave them hardship, and I gave them trial, and then I gave you all of this comfort. What did you do? He's not just going to come and he's going to judge not just the unrighteous, he's going to be judging the righteous too. So he's going to be asking you again, like you said, how did you prepare the way? Right. So we ought to live as though he's coming tomorrow. Just make it real easy on yourself. He's coming tomorrow. Okay. And then now prepare as though he is, and just prepare as though he's going to be judging your actions.
I feel like that needs to be a t-shirt.
Right. Just make it easy. It's coming tomorrow. I'm on my way. That's So okay, so we have all these generations that have come before us, and while we were making the compact, and I know, again, it's really hard not to look at all of this stuff and think about the compact that we're doing. Again, we're not associated with Glenn Beck in any way, shape, or form, but we've executed the compact, and we've got a lot of families that have been utilizing it and have adopted it into their home, and we've kind of created a little movement out of it. But while we were creating that, what we're talking about here in day 24 really goes along really, really well with that, because we talk about our families being brought to this time for a reason, and for reasons that require activity. Did you want to read the...
Yeah, absolutely. It's an excerpt from the compact. If you want to pull it up, you can. We know that every father and mother before us has led directly to our family today, and we believe that they have been placed in our history so that we could be brought together. As a family, we pledge to love one another, to be a light to each other and the world around us. We pledge to learn more about our family history and to learn and instruct our children on how best to honor God with our time, our talents, and our treasures. As parents, we believe that our children are a gift from God and our highest responsibility on earth as children. We believe that we are given the opportunity to learn from our fathers and mothers and theirs before them how to live an abundant and fulfilling life by honoring God and our parents. We believe that we are always essential to each other, essential to God's family, our extended family on earth.
That was probably one of my favorite parts when we were formulating the words, because we wanted to use always essential, but we didn't want it to just reflect this time in history, even though this is a significant time in our history.
To this time.
We wanted it to be so much more, and really reflect the multi-generational aspect of what those who have come before us and our responsibilities today. And I really appreciate we'll have our Thomas Paine, the guy who wrote it. We'll have him on the podcast soon, and he'll talk about how our responsibility as parents, and then our responsibility as children, and that's not talking about our 9-year-olds.
Correct.
It's talking about us.
Even as adults.
Even
or
as
even
adults.
As much older adults.
Right. And so that is reflecting our relationship with our earthly parents as much as it's reflecting our relationship with our heavenly parents.
Yeah. Well, and our forefathers. It's not necessarily meaning our direct father and mother, but our ancestors who came before them even. Exactly.
We have, there's this simultaneous responsibility to take on the quest as a legacy to take on the legacy of our forefathers as our quest, and then as well to prepare for the next generation. We had, and that's our nation was built on biblically centered families, of covenant people, from the Mayflower Compact to the Commission of Liberty to the Flushing Remonstrance to let's keep going. So that would be, then the next one would be the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Though to us, that's kind of, but they're not the same thing, I know, but that's in the same era.
Yeah.
Then to Gettysburg, and then all the way to inviting God into our national identity through adding under God to the Pledge of Allegiance, to now. Yeah. Right. And now is the time for our generation of families to secure the liberty.
Make sure that we are keeping those doors wide open.
It's interesting because multi-generationally, sometimes that looks different. And there were so many people during the past couple of years that I would, as I'm listening to, they would say, well, look, if I was ever called to serve in the military, hey, I'm in, right? And if they were ever called to do that which their grandparents did in World War II or whatever, that they're all in because they know what that looks like. Right. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense to me. I know where to go, but that's not the way that securing our liberties works. Like, it's not the way that it looks different. And it looks like it is now. where it's not about, serving in the military as much. You can, and we give great respect to those who have, but it's not just that, right? And I think those who serve in the military coming back to a nation that's so messed up, they're like, yeah, it's not, I mean, the war's not just out there, guys. The war is here too, right? And so we did a podcast with, and we'll do another one, different topic, but with a person that's absolutely amazing to know. So the World War II veteran, you can look that one up, but it's with Don Fotheringham.
Mm-hmm.
Don is great because he's a World War II decorated World War II veteran, and he served at Iwo Jima.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting about that is, so he served at Iwo Jima, and he was called, or he was serving as in the military, and so he served in the military engagement, and so his job was to fight off an evil at the time. Well, what's interesting is he serves in Japan under a military engagement. My uncle, so Don is actually related to me. He's my grandfather's cousin, right, and best friend.
So kind of related. It's
right.
A bit distant. That's okay.
So my the next generation, so that's my uncle's generation, my uncle and my father, they were both called to serve in Japan in a proselyting way. So they were called to serve a proselyting mission. So they were called to preach the gospel of Christ, while their father's generation was called to stop this evil that was coming through, like come with guns and bullets. The next generation is called to serve to preach the gospel, And then I was called, the next generation after that, I was called to preach the gospel in the same land. I was actually called to serve in Hiroshima, where they dropped the bomb. And so, where they dropped the atom bomb. And so it's interesting to see, because you see how even under the same emperor, right, that would call for the destruction of all the world, so Emperor Hirohito, the next generation comes and serves and preaches the gospel. And by the time that occurs, Japan had gone through this, what they called the Christian boom, from after World War II through the 70s and 80s. This massive Christian boom occurred, and that was a bigger effect than any nuclear weapon could ever have. Because after that, there was all this industry that happens around that. There's all this blessing. And what's really fascinating is that happened under the same emperor, right? The same guy that wanted to destroy the world is the same guy that steps down from being a god and says, no, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is bigger than me. So let's invite that God into our national identity and see what happens. And he's massively blessed, and the whole nation, the people are blessed for it. Now I don't know how I don't know how God's going to judge him. That's between him and God. But I know, because my father served in Japan as a proselyting missionary. I was called to serve in Japan, in Hiroshima, and really understand that thread and see, there was a lot of destruction here, and we wished it did not need to happen. Everybody wished it did not need to happen. There's a whole story on that. Go take a look at the other podcast. But when you invite God into your national identity, we're blessed by it, right? And so we have a really great discussion with Don. Don served, and after that, he ended up after the his tour in Japan, he came back and also served a proselyting mission only in the States, and then has committed his life to protecting and preserving the Constitution. And he wrote a book, and we got a couple of other things going on with that. So
it really was a fantastic interview, and it's long, but it is not nearly long enough. There's so much he has to say, and so much we want to hear. Yeah. That he just got tired after a while.
Yeah.
Please, we want more.
he's in his 90s, but
I think we need more interviews like that with those of the older generation before they go, because they're so genuine. There's so much rich history and love in the history that they have even throughout their whole life. So
It's so interesting because, you see, like, he's lived through World War II as a teenager, by the way. So he lied about his age to get in the military.
We're not talking about
Yeah, and you discover that. That's cool. That's a cool story. But then he sees all these other things that have occurred, and he's just watching it unfold.
Yeah.
And he's like, my friends did not die on Iwo Jima for this to happen here,
Yeah.
right? And so he's really dedicated his life to that. He's a really amazing and fascinating person, and we'll interview him on other topics, on other times, and all that other stuff. So,
all right, moving on to the last day of the week.
25.
25.
Right. This one's supposed to be called Devil at the Door.
Yeah, they misprinted that.
Yeah, there's a couple of typos if you haven't noticed. There's one where there's like a duplicate paragraph.
It's okay.
Come on, Glenn. It's okay. We forgive you. It's fine. It's good stuff. So, yeah.
What did you think about that one?
This one was great. There's another again, there's another compact parallel that we have in here. And so do you want to read it?
Sure.
Because it's really good. I think
you have to point me to which paragraph.
It's the last one, or the second to last one, where we stand, right? And this one talks a lot about how. You just I don't usually quote. We kind of stopped quoting these, but I'm going to quote it here. The devil's at your door, and so he says, "Sin is a lifelong bounty hunter seeking your life. The moment you forget that fact is the moment sin overtakes you." Does that mean we spend our day fixated on sin? No, we spend our days fixated on obedience. I just dropped the paper. Fixated on obedience. And when we wanted the compact to be a source of light, a source of love, and a source of liberty, not a source of contention. But here's the thing. The relationship that we have with protecting those things does not, if it's done right and it's done right on time, then it doesn't have to be contentious. So when you stand today, let me put it this way. If you don't stand today, then you're forcing your children to sacrifice tomorrow. And so that's the story of a lot of our military engagements, is those that when we don't stand when it's the right time, we're forced to make ultimate sacrifices at another time. And so we have our we wrote a certain part of the compact we thought was really important, and we chose those words very carefully. I mentioned it on the last week's, but I want to mention it on this week as well.
We're just going to read it again anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. We pledge to strengthen our faith and family ties, to uplift and encourage one another, and to stand firm in the face of any effort within or without to dim our light, love, or liberty to one another. To that end, we promise together as a family to continually...
And that's where you put in your family promises and things. And so that was a really important one to us because, again, the when all you have to do is stand and stand firm, we're at a point where all we have to do is stand, and that's all. Again, religious liberty is on our side. There's never been a time in our history where we've had as much religious liberty as we do now. And the Supreme Court has made multiple changes in a very short period that have changed like whole 50-year precedences, and all of our churches, all of our culture, all of our kind of mindset and the way that we operate and work in church, in the public sector, they've all fallen under, we've all been culturalized into these parameters, and they're not necessary anymore. In fact, if we're not praying in our town halls, it's because we don't want to. If we're not saying the Pledge of Allegiance in our schools, it's because we don't want to. If we're not, expressing our religion at work, if we're working on Sunday and we don't like it, it's because we don't want to. We don't want to work otherwise. You see what I'm saying? All of those things are on our side, and all of those religious freedoms, all those expressions of religious freedom, those are on our side now. And they haven't been for the past 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And so our parents, ourselves, our parents, our pastors, everybody around us have grown up and have been culturalized into these boxes, into these suppressive boxes. Well, the boxes have been opened and they've been lifted, and we don't, and the doors have been opened. And so we just need to now look at it again and say, okay, it's time for me to look and go through these doors, express ourselves religiously, express ourselves in school. The previous day, so day 24, maybe it was day 23.
What?
We were talking about renewal. I think it actually might have been last week. Yes, last week, sorry. David reinstitutes. No. So it's both David and King Josiah.
Josiah, thank you.
King David and King Josiah both have a renewal. So King David renews the Ark of the Covenant from Saul had taken it away, and that whole generation was they didn't even realize, they didn't know how to do it. And so David brings it back and says, no, this is something we need to do, right? So, and King Josiah renews
all the old practices, right?
Renews all these old practices. So we're at the same time in our lives right now where, again, God's opened up this religious liberty. And we do another podcast. Please take a look at that, where we look and we break down what changes have been made at the Supreme Court that puts the law on your side, the side of the biblically centered families that but again, you're going to have to pull out all of that. You're going to have to pull the Egypt out of the children of Israel, right? You got to learn how to get the tolerance. Yeah, exactly. Get the things that you would do for the sake of tolerance. Get those out of there. Get the things that you would do for the sake of not being like controversial or whatever. Get those out of there. They're unnecessary, right? We have the ability to express ourselves from a religious perspective, and again, the law's on our side. So God is doing a great work with us here and in our country. It's an opportunity for not just revival but renewal.
Exactly.
So,
and with that, I think we are going to come to a close. I appreciate all of you being here. We appreciate you all being here and taking the time to hear us out and be with us. Appreciate it.
So let's do our outro. So we'll go, may God bless you.
May God bless America.
And may God bless this American family.
Have a great night.